communication. Take note of this now, because you will see why the evangelicals, the Anglican Church, lost Britain and some of the... There are 5 major revolutions that has occurred in communication. After the flood, God now gave a command, repeating the mandate he gave to Adam, to Noah, that your descendants are to spread to all the nations of the earth, be fruitful, multiply, and saturate the earth, replenish the earth. The people were disobeying God. They wanted to be together and build a Tower of Babel. You know, like what God did to the early church. Instead of going on mission and spreading the message, they wanted to stay in Jerusalem. So he raised persecution, Saul. What God did to break that and bring about this spread was the number 1 revolution in communication, the introduction of languages. That introduction brought about the different cultures we have today, tribes, race, and all the things. Because the Lord also gave me insight that the moment he did that, like the way the Holy Ghost fell on the day of Pentecost, he also did something in the genetic program of man to create the different races and colors. That's just alteration in skin colors to help the different people groups and all of that. So those who can understand, they say, will move to another place. And that's how people started migrating. If not, there will be nobody in China now. Nobody in Indonesia. Then he did another thing, which is called geological cliff. I don't want to discuss that one, but I did chemistry, where he broke the planet Earth that used to be one landmass into continents and broke up, allowed water to come and cause land, boundaries. Like this water we see in Lagos, Atlantic Ocean, to cause boundary between us and South America, North America. Everything was one before. Then in the northern part of Africa, he caused a huge boundary by drying up a piece of land and creating a desert. Nobody should cross. The idea is, let them spread first. I will bring them back later. Okay, so the first revolution is languages. So the method of communication is oral. But then the weakness of oral communication is that you only learn from people living in your own lifetime. What about people that lived 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago? Their wisdom is lost. Because as you transfer by word of mouth, people will add salt and pepper, add whatever. That's why Adam used to see God every day at the cool of the day. But the revelation of creation, we don't have it in writing. Adam had it. Some of the things that Noah knew. How did you develop a technology to build that animal? Wouldn't you want a book of Noah? Because there was no writing. 2,000 years after the flood, after that, God inspired a civilization, and it was Africa, to invent writing, and it was Egypt. So they invented writing. And in those days, we don't have paper. You write on all types of parchments like animal skins and so on and so forth. So what God did was he instructed for the children of Israel to move down there. One of the things he had in mind, because he has told Abraham that these people will spread the gospel to all the nations of the earth, through them, all the nations. And if they are going to do it, they need technology, they need communication. It won't just be word of mouth. So God, one of the things he had in mind is that they are going to learn this evolving technology. By the time of Moses, it has been perfected. So Moses was trained in all the wisdom of Egypt, and this is one of the things he came out with. When he brought the people out, he got to Mount Sinai. God said, now, your purpose is now starting. So I write for you the 10 core values you are going to spread around the world, starting with the Jews. But you write the rest of the things I will show you. Stay here 40 days so you can capture it. Don't just pass it by oral tradition like Abraham and Co did. Write. And then this was the first man to write the first 5 books of the Bible. You can imagine now that it is Moses writing about creation, Genesis. When Adam should have done it. When people like Abel and Co should have done it. Now, Moses has been one of the greatest gifts this world has today. Because everything, look at, I'm telling you how to choose political leaders. Who wrote that? Moses. 40 days spent with God. Ten Commandments, who wrote that? From that Ten Commandments, we have developed the laws and constitution of nations that are civilized. From the other laws he wrote, there are laws for the military, there are health laws, there are laws about marriage, there are laws about domestic issues, there are all kinds of things. The Western world now were able to break them into criminal and civil laws to develop the foundation. The Judeo-Christian values became the foundation for modern civilization. Now, but writing was used more than any other people by the Jews. Even the people that invented it, they had they had some historians who captured whatever, but they didn't utilize that technology. Africa will not be as backward as we are if we did. Because you can see the white man writing our history for us. When civilization started here. You can see that things like medicine was invented in Egypt. Mathematics. All kinds of things.
First done, cesarean operation was first done by Kenyan traditional healers.
They showed this flush toilet, this whatever, that was used by one of the fellows. Discovery Channel. The Jews used it very well because God taught them how to preserve history. You can see whenever they cross like the River Jordan, pick 12 stones, dude, they were taught the importance of preserving so that generations after will not lose their way. Now look at the parchments. I took my wife and a team of others. Nigerian embassy gave us passage. Nigerian embassy in Italy to enter the Vatican Museum and all that. Because you will see things that they preserve, both good and bad though. Because even inside there you will see Medusa with snake head. You will see idols carrying from Africa and different countries. They kept them there. You will see one with fire coming. And I'm wondering what is idol doing under a church. This is that big church under it. So they gave us a right passage and we're able to go in. But you see these parchments, Red Sea parchment, how we're able to get back this our Bible. You will see all kinds of the kind of materials they used to write in those days. Then, but the Catholic Church, this writing thing continued to the early church. That's why we have Matthew, Mark, and the apostles of Jesus. They wrote the book of Revelation. Parchment, but it couldn't spread so fast. It went around the Asia Minor. So finally, during the Protestant Reformation, because the Catholic Church took the Bible, took all the important and hid in the monasteries, hid underground. This museum I'm talking about is underground. It's a good place to visit. St. Peter Basilica in Rome. Not to convert to, but to gain some insights. One church building that was built for 120 years. Because of that church building, they started selling penance, selling salvation. You pay this amount of money, you move from purgatory to. And that was when Martin Luther. Now, and they wanted all the reformers dead. Over 100 million. They born you, they have different ways. And they would have killed Martin Luther and others. But God came to their rescue with a third revolution in communication. The printing press. He anointed that man, Gutenberg, and he invented the printing press. Then all the Protestant nations, they set up printing press, a minimum of 7. Some have 8, some have 9. Holland, Switzerland, Germany, everywhere, all those centers, France, they set up printing press that is working 24 hours, non-stop, throughout the Reformation. What are they doing? Number one, churning out Bibles. Because they know if the public get to read the book of Romans. They said they are quoting Peter, quoting Paul. Let them read the writings of those men. That this, whatever, darkness will break. Then the pamphlets and all the things that drove. It was this communication technology that drove the movement. And that was how the church lost out. And the kings of those nations started reading and their eyes opened. They blocked their territory. You can't come here and touch these men. They provided them protection. Yeah, England became freed. It's true that a few years after, Queen Mary came and wanted to reverse, but God too. There was too much information. She did a lot of damage, but now I'm pointing to the communication technology behind the move of God. There is no move of God without a technology from heaven to drive it. So the Protestant Reformation rode on the back of printing technology. It swept Europe and then began to sweep the world. Books started coming out. They started building schools, public schools, all kinds of things. And you can see how they brought us the gospel here. And books and a lot of other things. And that is what went over to America. During the time of Bloody Mary, they call her Queen Mary. She was persecuting the church and doing all kinds of stuff. Wanted to return England back to the Pope. In those days, God opened the eyes of one man to discover America, Christopher Columbus. That sponsored voyage across the sea. They weren't actually looking for America. They were looking for a shortcut to India because of the trade, industrial revolution hit. God gave the printing technology and blessed the economy because of the gospel. America was discovered. So Christians that were now running away from persecution started moving, entering ship, crossing over, going into a new land where they will have liberty to practice their faith and spread the gospel. And they made a covenant that this nation will be built according to the Judeo-Christian principle. They actually call it New Jerusalem. And that the country will exist for three major purposes, of which one of it is the spread of Christian faith around the world. It was a covenant that was made, the Mayflower Covenant. Now, here is how the Protestants lost the West. There was a fourth revolution in communication. The printing thing lasted for hundreds of years. 1900. The Holy Spirit was poured in 1906 at Azusa Street. Even before then, that has started here and there. But Azusa was like the culmination of. And God blessed that move with another voice to help spread it around the world. It was electronic media. That is what led to what is called the Hollywood Revolution. TV, radio, and all these modern things that we communicate with today. Watch now. Movies. And the Protestants pulled back. They understand printing. The Jews understand writing. They fail to understand it's for the people, the world, or it's for whatever. The leaders of the church were blind. The Pentecostals, a few didn't even understand, but a few managed later to move in. You can imagine the first Christian-owned network was born more than 70 years after the revival started. Not even. And it was PTL. The founder later got into scandals and all that. But some of the people that work with him now, pioneer TBN, that's Paul Crouch you see today. A few years after, Maurice Roro raised money and bought that PTL and renamed it Inspirational Network. But before then, there were one or two guys who pioneered TV station at local levels. The church did not understand what God was doing. Check. Hollywood started pure. Look at music, movies like Sounds of Music, 10 Commandments. Moses coming leading the people out of it. They were doing those kind of movies. They don't do it now. The church needed to ride on this. The church didn't understand what was going on. And with that outpouring of the Spirit, God created the technological revolution that made America a superpower. God is about to do something with Nigeria, but I'm going to show you what it is now that will hinder us if we make the mistake. And now, the secular world now grab Hollywood in the late 60s, actually 70s fully, a feminist movement started, sexual revolution started. Some apostles came and started, this pornography thing, and some other revolutions occur. And their method to take US, leave these churches to be in their churches and be doing their denomination. Let's grab Hollywood and focus on the children, the next generation. That next generation they focus on are the ones like the president ruling today, America today. And the ones that finally became adults, America lost. And then when they grabbed America, they used it to infiltrate the whole of Europe. Europeans resisted initially. We can't watch this thing. You can't play it after a while. Because of United Nations. After the war, they formed United Nations, and America had veto power, the first country to have it. Later, Britain asked for veto power. Then after a few others, they were able to break all those boundaries. And now, and so, Christianity lost United Kingdom, lost Germany, lost France, lost Netherlands, lost all our strongholds. And now, we have lost, okay, let me just say almost. Because there's something called tipping point. If you start bending on that chair, when you get to a particular point, if you don't stop, you are going to fall and hit your head on the floor. America is at the tipping point. Unless something happens in the next few years, it's going to be a total collapse. The economy has gone, everything. One of their leaders was talking to me this year in America. He said what we show the public is 13 trillion debt. He said the debt is over 90 trillion. I said, how? He said, beyond all this one we owe to China, and that if you see the amount of domestic debt and the amount of that, America is actually gone. One woman, I'm going to broadcast that message here. One woman rose up and developed a 10-point agenda on how to take America and the West from the church. And summary of all her 10 points is use the movies, the media, the different tools of communication. Leave these people. Don't fight them. He said, let's make divorce easier. Let's adjust the laws. Let's remove the Bible from the school. Do you know it's a woman that removed the Bible from the school? A woman. One woman. I say it's more majority that is organized that changes the world, whether negative or positive.
She's the founder of the Planned Parenthood. So our policy was remove the Bible from school, distort the family system,
make divorce easy and accessible, reduce the authority of the man, amplify that of the lady,
of the woman, and then break up society by destroying, the virginity of children, license abortion, so that a lot of bloodshed goes into the city, society will collapse.
With a few people around her. If a small woman can do that, what are we doing? And the only reason that succeeded is that the church sat down and we are clapping, fighting ourselves every Sunday until the ship of society went down and then everybody's paying for it. This gay movement that is making noise all over the world now is just 4% of U.S. population. The so-called evangelicals are still 70%. But has lost power. Are just there now. 4% is ruling 70%. Until somebody wakes up that sleeping giant. And we owe the West because they labored, sacrificed to come and bring us the gospel. It's our time to go and help them in their moment of weakness now. It is the Hollywood revolution. Now let me tell you something about a movie, Passion for Christ. Mel Gibson felt that, when this idea finally came and he accepted and made commitment to do it, that all these Jesus of Nazareth, all those things that Hollywood did in the early days when Hollywood was set, there is no more communicating to the younger generation. It needs to be done in a way that the message. He went around all the studios and productions and none of them agreed to produce it. He said to him, are you crazy? This religious thing is what you are. He sold his house. Sold everything to raise the fund to produce that movie. And God, as if he poured anointing. The thing went round. He said he says all his years of being a producer and being in the movie industry, that movie paid him everything and paid him for his future generation. That he wishes he knows something else he can do that God will like again. Because we are living Nigerian Nollywood now. They are beginning to venture into pornography, or they are the boundary, and Ghana, the Ghanaian whatever is. If we don't do something, you will be Christian, serve God, then you will see what will happen to the next generation. The next revolution in communication is just before we enter 2000, early 90s. Actually, mid-80s, the American army started experimenting with it with the help of some Jews. An African even was partly involved in this particular revolution. You know about Philip Ogbueli's involvement in developing the supercomputer that finally led to the internet. It's internet. The ICT revolution is the new voice God gave for 21st century. There is a sixth revolution that is coming. I have gone and have seen it. They have created it, but it's not yet mass produced. I was in JF Kennedy Center for Space. And I had the experience of entering a space shuttle. This year, this 2013, in July. There are technologies they have developed now. It's coming. I don't know when it will finally, because it looks like God is controlling this thing.